Have you ever felt confused when someone you deeply care about suddenly starts ignoring you? You wonder if they're upset, if they've lost interest, or if the bond has weakened. But what if I told you that sometimes silence is not the absence of love, but its most powerful expression? What if ignoring you is not rejection, but rather an indirect way of showing affection, testing emotions, and guarding a heart that feels too much? Today, I'm going to reveal the truth behind this behavior. And once you understand it, you'll never look at her silence the same way again. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of communication, especially in relationships where emotions run deep and the heart is constantly seeking reassurance. When someone becomes silent, the immediate assumption is that they are no longer interested, that the bond has weakened, or that love has somehow faded away. But in reality, silence often holds a deeper meaning, one that is not rooted in rejection, but in an unspoken depth of feeling. Silence can be a language of its own, a way of expressing what words fail to capture, and many times it is chosen not to distance, but to protect the very love that exists beneath the surface. To see silence as rejection is to miss the subtlety of human emotion, because sometimes silence is a shield, sometimes it is a test, and sometimes it is simply a pause that carries more weight than any spoken word. When a woman chooses silence, she is not always turning away. Often she is drawing closer in ways that are not obvious to the untrained eye. Love can feel overwhelming, and with it comes vulnerability, fear, and the possibility of being hurt. To love deeply is to expose the heart, and that exposure can feel like standing without armor in a world that is unpredictable. So instead of rushing to speak, she chooses silence to regain her balance. It is not that she does not care. It is precisely because she cares so much that she needs the pause. In that silence, she is gathering her emotions, aligning her thoughts, and trying to understand the intensity of what she feels. To label that as rejection is to misinterpret a heart that is simply trying to protect itself from breaking too quickly. There is also a testing nature in silence. When a woman becomes silent, she is not only listening to her own heart, but she is also observing the dynamic between you and her. She wants to see if love is strong enough to withstand moments of quiet. Will affection still remain when words are absent? Will connection still exist without constant validation? Silence is not the absence of love, but a way of measuring whether love goes beyond surface-level expressions. In those silent moments, she is asking questions without speaking them. She is silently wondering if her presence is enough, if the bond is real, and if the love she feels is mirrored back even when she withdraws. That is not rejection. It is a delicate test of depth, a way of ensuring that the foundation is strong enough to last. Silence can also be an act of emotional processing. When emotions grow too strong, the mind cannot always keep pace with the heart. Words become insufficient, and in that gap, silence takes over. It is not that she does not want to talk. It is that talking may dilute the weight of what she is feeling. Silence becomes her sanctuary, her private space to sit with the intensity of love and all the fears that come with it. To someone on the outside, that silence might feel like coldness or distance, but on the inside, it is a storm of thoughts, emotions, and unspoken words. The truth is, she is not rejecting you. She is simply creating space to process everything she feels without losing herself in the chaos of constant interaction. Many people misunderstand silence because they equate love only with visible gestures, constant messages, endless conversations, and non-stop attention. But true love does not always need to be loud. Sometimes the strongest love is the quietest because it is secure enough not to need validation every second. Silence is a sign that trust is being tested, that boundaries are being honored, and that the heart is being allowed to breathe. To misinterpret that as rejection is to overlook the sacredness of silence in love. Words are easy, but silence requires patience, and patience is where true love reveals its depth. If you can sit with silence, if you can embrace the pauses, you begin to understand that silence is not the absence of love, but the presence of something much deeper. Silence, therefore, is not the end of communication, but a different form of it. It is a language of stillness, a language that carries unspoken emotions, fears, and desires. To listen to silence is to hear the heart speaking in its most vulnerable form. When she is silent, she may be protecting herself, she may be testing the bond, or she may simply be giving space for love to breathe. But one thing is certain, silence is not rejection. Rejection closes doors, but silence keeps them open, waiting for understanding, patience, and connection to fill the gap. Silence is not absence. It is presence in a different form, one that demands deeper listening, greater awareness, and the strength to love without needing constant noise around it. Withdrawal is one of the most powerful and misunderstood behaviors women use when they are in love. To many, it feels confusing, even painful, when she suddenly becomes distant, when the energy that once felt warm and constant is replaced with silence and space. Yet this withdrawal is not always a sign of lost interest or fading affection. More often than not, it is a deliberate test. Women test with withdrawal to measure depth, to observe strength, and to understand whether love is grounded in consistency or merely in fleeting moments of attention. This test is not cruel, though it may feel that way. It is deeply psychological, rooted in a desire for safety and assurance, and it comes from a place of valuing the bond so much that she needs to know whether it can withstand distance. When a woman withdraws, she is not only stepping back from the connection, but also watching closely what happens when she is no longer pouring in her energy. She is asking silently without words, will love still stand strong when I am not giving constant validation? Will the connection survive when I stop feeding it every day? Withdrawal becomes her way of revealing truth, because anyone can show affection when it is easy, when it is constant, when it is being reciprocated. The real test lies in seeing what remains when the flow slows down. Does the bond collapse when she pulls away, or does it stay intact, showing that it was built on something much deeper than surface level attention? This withdrawal is also about self-protection. Women carry within them a deep awareness of how love can both heal and hurt. They know that opening the heart too quickly without testing its foundation can lead to pain that lingers. So they use withdrawal as a safeguard, a way of observing before fully surrendering. By creating distance, she can see not only your reaction, but also the truth of her own emotions. Withdrawal allows her to step back, look at the bigger picture, and confirm whether what she feels is genuine love or just a temporary rush of emotion. It gives her clarity, and in that clarity, she decides whether the connection is worth investing her deepest self into. To many men, this behavior feels like mixed signals. One moment she is fully present, the next she seems distant. But in reality, this cycle of closeness and withdrawal is a psychological process women use to gauge strength. They are not only testing you, they are testing love itself. They want to know if this bond is resilient, if it can handle space, if it can survive the storms of silence without crumbling. And this is where the real distinction appears. Relationships that are shallow break under the weight of withdrawal, but those that are real grow stronger because distance reveals the depth of commitment. When she pulls away, she is watching whether your energy remains stable, whether you still hold steady without chasing, begging, or collapsing under the fear of loss. Another layer to this withdrawal test is observing emotional control. Women notice how you respond when things do not go your way. Do you lose patience, demand answers, and create conflict? Or do you remain calm, confident, and consistent, showing that your love does not depend on constant attention? Withdrawal becomes her way of measuring maturity. In her silence, she wants to see whether you can handle the discomfort of not being in control. Can you give her the space she seeks without trying to force closeness? Can you remain grounded and secure even when her presence feels distant? These are the questions she is asking without ever speaking them aloud, and the answers are revealed through your behavior when she withdraws. At its core, withdrawal is a test of endurance. Love is not just about moments of passion and joy. It is about the ability to endure uncertainty, distance, and the natural ebb and flow of emotions. Women withdraw to see if the bond can handle that ebb and flow, to see if the connection is strong enough to survive pauses, silences, and spaces in between. Because if love crumbles in the face of withdrawal, it was never strong enough to last. If it survives, if it remains steady, even when she steps back, that is when she feels safe enough to lean in again. Withdrawal, therefore, is not punishment but preparation. It prepares the foundation for a love that is not fragile but enduring, not shallow but deeply rooted. So when a woman tests with withdrawal, it is not rejection, nor is it indifference. It is a reflection of how much she values love, how much she needs to know it is real, and how much she wants assurance that her heart will be safe when she finally gives it fully. Withdrawal is her way of seeing whether love can hold its own, whether it can breathe even when space is created, and whether it can remain stable when emotions shift. Love is often imagined as loud, expressive, and overflowing with words and actions. We are conditioned to believe that love must always speak, that it must constantly declare itself in order to be real. But the truth is, some of the most powerful expressions of love happen in silence. Silence is not the absence of love. Rather, it is often the purest form of it. When words fall short, when emotions grow too vast to be captured in sentences, silence steps in as the language of the heart. Love can express itself in silence in ways that no speech can replicate, because silence carries depth, presence, and intimacy beyond anything that can be articulated. When two souls share a deep bond, they do not always need words to communicate. A glance, a pause, or simply the comfort of being in each other's presence can speak louder than 1,000 declarations. Silence between two people who truly love each other is never empty. It is filled with meaning, with connection, with a shared understanding that does not demand constant explanations. In that silence, the heart feels heard, the soul feels seen, and the bond feels unshakable. Love does not always have to be proven through endless conversation. Sometimes the strongest proof is the ability to sit together in silence and still feel completely understood. Silence becomes love's most profound expression when words would only dilute the intensity of what is felt. There are moments in relationships where emotions rise to a level that language cannot hold. To speak would be to limit the vastness of what the heart is experiencing. In those moments, silence becomes sacred. It allows love to exist in its purest form, untouched by the clumsiness of language. The quietness itself becomes the message, an unspoken confession that says, "I feel so much, I cannot put it into words." And in that silence, there is honesty, vulnerability, and a depth of love that cannot be faked. Many misunderstand silence as disinterest, but true love often reveals itself in the pauses, in the unspoken moments, in the times when words are unnecessary. Silence does not always mean distance. Sometimes it means closeness so deep that words are no longer needed. When two people share love that is genuine, they can sit in silence and still feel connected, still feel whole, still feel complete. That kind of silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It is the overflowing presence of love that does not need to be spoken aloud every second to be real. It is the silence of comfort, the silence of safety, the silence of knowing without needing confirmation. Silence also expresses love in the way it protects emotions. Sometimes, instead of rushing to speak, love chooses silence because it understands the power of restraint. It knows that not every thought must be voiced, not every fear must be expressed, and not every feeling requires immediate articulation. Love in silence is patient. It allows the other person's space, it respects boundaries, and it shows maturity. It is not loud, it is not desperate, it is not anxious. It is calm, steady, and secure enough to let silence carry the weight of its presence. In this way, silence becomes a sign of trust, because only when love is secure does it stop needing constant reassurance through words. There is also a spiritual side to silence in love. Silence transcends the physical and verbal aspects of a relationship, touching the soul at a level beyond human expression. It creates a space where two souls can connect without interference, where love is felt rather than described. This is why some of the most meaningful moments in love are wordless, sitting side by side, watching the world pass by, holding hands without speaking, or simply being together in a quiet room. In these moments, silence becomes the canvas on which love paints its truest colors. It is not the absence of communication, but the deepest form of it, where the heart speaks directly without the need for language. Silence in love also teaches endurance. Words can be fleeting, promises can be broken, but silence reveals whether the connection is strong enough to survive without constant verbal affirmation. It is easy to say, "I love you" every day, but it takes depth to feel it in silence, to know it without being told, to trust it without needing constant reminders. That is where love expresses itself most powerfully, in the quiet faith that does not demand words but still feels secure. Silence, then, is not a weakness of love, but one of its greatest strengths. It is the kind of love that does not shout, but still shakes the soul, that does not declare itself loudly, but still leaves no doubt of its presence. Fear of vulnerability is one of the deepest struggles in love, and it often hides behind actions that seem confusing, distant, or even contradictory. At its core, vulnerability means opening the heart, exposing emotions, and allowing someone to see the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. For many women, this openness feels both beautiful and terrifying. Love awakens emotions that are powerful and real, but with that awakening also comes the risk of being hurt, of being misunderstood, of being abandoned when the heart is laid bare. Vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it is one of the greatest strengths in a relationship. Yet the fear of it can cause a woman to retreat, to hide behind silence, to put up walls, or to mask her emotions in order to feel safe. When a woman truly loves, she experiences emotions at a depth that can overwhelm her. The intensity of love makes her feel alive, but it also makes her feel exposed. Every smile, every gesture, every word carries weight because it is tied to the deepest part of her being. And in that exposure, love becomes real, raw, and transformative. Yet because of fear, many women hesitate to take that leap. They protect themselves through silence, through distance, through guarded behaviors, even though what they desire most is to be understood and accepted in their most vulnerable state. This inner conflict creates moments of withdrawal that often confuse the other person, but in truth, they are reflections of the immense battle within, the desire to open up fully, clashing with the fear of being hurt if they do. Emotional processing is one of the most important yet invisible aspects of love, and it often explains why a woman chooses silence, distance, or withdrawal in moments when emotions run high. Many people mistake this pause for indifference, assuming that her quietness or her decision to step back means she has stopped caring. But in reality, emotional processing is the very proof that she cares so deeply that she cannot simply react without reflection. Love is not just about constant expression. It is also about the inner work of understanding what is being felt, why it is being felt, and how to handle it in a way that keeps the relationship healthy. A woman who loves does not want to damage the bond by reacting impulsively, so she takes time to process her emotions, to sit with them, and to make sense of the storm within before she comes forward again. When a woman feels strongly, her emotions are not shallow ripples. They are waves that reach deep into her heart and mind. She experiences love, joy, fear, hope, and vulnerability all at once, and this intensity can be overwhelming. Instead of rushing to speak and risking saying something she might regret, she turns inward. This is not rejection, but reflection. It is her way of protecting the relationship by not letting raw emotions spill out unfiltered. Emotional processing is her attempt to translate feelings into clarity, to move from chaos to understanding. She may appear distant during this time, but in truth, she is deeply engaged with her inner world, searching for balance so that her words and actions align with the truth of her heart. Emotional processing also reveals the depth of responsibility she feels in love. A woman who does not care can speak without thinking, act without concern, and walk away without hesitation. But a woman who loves will pause because she knows her words carry weight, her actions create impact, and her decisions can shape the entire bond. That pause is not emptiness. It is her way of honoring the significance of the connection. She may ignore for a moment, she may withdraw into silence, but inside, she is asking herself difficult questions. Is what I feel genuine or temporary? Am I reacting from love or from fear? How can I express this without causing unnecessary hurt? This process takes time, and that time is not a sign of absence, but of presence, an intentional investment in ensuring that love is expressed in the healthiest way possible. The beauty of emotional processing is that it transforms vulnerability into strength. Emotions left unchecked can lead to impulsive decisions, misunderstandings, and conflict. But emotions that are processed create maturity, wisdom, and stability. When a woman steps back to process, she is creating a bridge between her emotions and her actions, making sure that what she feels is honored, but also guided with reason. This is why, after periods of silence or distance, she often returns with clarity, calmness, and a deeper sense of what she wants. That time of reflection allows her to release confusion and reconnect to love from a place of strength rather than uncertainty. What may look like withdrawal is, in truth, emotional labor, a process of aligning heart and mind so that love can be expressed in its most authentic form. For many men, this period of emotional processing feels like rejection because they mistake action for connection and silence for disinterest. But love is not only nurtured in moments of expression, it is also nurtured in moments of reflection. Emotional processing is what allows love to grow sustainably rather than chaotically. It creates space for her to navigate the flood of feelings that come with deep connection. Without that space, love would be rushed, shallow, and unstable. By stepping back, by taking time to process, she is not abandoning the bond. She is protecting it from the damage of haste and the fragility of unexamined emotions. This act of emotional processing is also a sign of emotional intelligence. It shows that she understands the importance of regulating her inner world before bringing it outward. She does not want to project her fears, insecurities, or past wounds directly into the relationship without first examining them. So she withdraws, not because she has stopped loving, but because she wants to come back from a place of truth rather than projection. Emotional processing is her way of making sure that love is not clouded by confusion, that her actions come from her heart rather than her fears, and that the bond she is building rests on clarity instead of chaos. This is why silence, distance, or ignoring should not always be read as disconnection. They are often signs that deep emotional work is taking place within her. She is sorting through feelings too powerful to express immediately. She is grounding herself before she reaches out, and she is ensuring that what she gives to love is not reactive, but intentional. Emotional processing is the hidden labor of love, the invisible effort that makes visible harmony possible. It is the quiet work of the heart that often goes unnoticed, yet it is what strengthens love, deepens connection, and allows vulnerability to transform into wisdom. Her behavior often carries messages that go beyond words, and one of the most common yet misunderstood expressions is the way she seeks reassurance. When a woman loves, she enters a space of vulnerability where her emotions become intense, her heart feels exposed, and her thoughts often revolve around the fear of losing what she values most. In that state, her actions, whether it is silence, withdrawal, or even seeming distance, are rarely about rejection. Instead, they reflect a deep need for reassurance, a longing to know that the love she feels is not one-sided, that her emotions are safe, and that the bond she is giving herself to will not suddenly vanish. Reassurance is not a sign of weakness, nor is it manipulation. It is a psychological and emotional necessity that comes with the depth of love. To love deeply is to crave security, and her behavior is often an unspoken request for that security. When she ignores messages, when she pulls away, or when she becomes quieter than usual, it is easy to assume she no longer cares. But if you look beneath the surface, you will often find that she is observing, watching closely how the connection reacts when she steps back. Does the love remain steady even in her silence? Does the bond weaken when she withdraws? Her behavior is not designed to confuse, but to test the stability of the relationship. This is not because she doubts love exists, but because she wants to know it will remain even when she is not constantly feeding it with attention. In her mind, reassurance is not always about grand words or constant affirmations. Sometimes it is about seeing consistency in the absence of constant interaction. Her need for reassurance also comes from the natural fears that accompany love. To give her heart is to risk pain. To trust someone is to risk betrayal. And to invest deeply is to risk loss. These fears do not mean she is insecure. They mean she is human. Love brings joy, but it also brings the awareness of fragility. That awareness makes her long for reassurance in subtle ways, through your patience when she is distant, through your steadiness when she is silent, through your calmness when she tests the bond with withdrawal. Every act of withdrawal, every moment of ignoring, every silence is her way of silently asking, "Am I safe here? Will you still be here even when I am not perfect, even when I need space, even when my emotions overwhelm me?" This is why her behavior can sometimes feel paradoxical. She may love deeply yet act distant. She may want closeness yet choose silence. She may crave attention yet test by ignoring. These contradictions are not signs of confusion, but of her inner need for reassurance. She is not trying to push love away. She is trying to confirm that love will stay. And this is one of the most important truths about women in love. Her actions are rarely about indifference. More often, they are a reflection of her need to feel secure, valued, and understood without having to constantly ask for it in words. Reassurance in love is not about repeating "I love you" endlessly. It is about creating an environment where she feels seen, safe, and steady. When she behaves in ways that seem distant, it is her way of reaching out for reassurance without directly asking for it. She wants to feel that she does not need to beg for consistency, that she does not need to chase to feel loved, that she does not need to sacrifice her vulnerability in order to feel secure. Her actions, whether they are subtle or obvious, are expressions of that deep need for emotional confirmation. It is not about dependency, but about the natural human longing to feel that love is stable and not conditional. Her need for reassurance is also tied to her emotional investment. The more she loves, the more reassurance she needs, not because she doubts herself, but because she values the bond too much to risk it on uncertainty. Love makes her more aware of what she has to lose, and that awareness heightens her need to feel protected within the relationship. So when she withdraws, it is not abandonment. It is a silent request for proof. Proof that the connection is not fragile, proof that love does not disappear when she takes a step back, proof that the bond is strong enough to survive both closeness and distance. In this way, her behavior is not an obstacle, but a message, one that says, show me that love is steady, show me that love is patient, show me that love does not waver when I am silent. Her actions may not always be straightforward, but they always carry meaning. When she behaves in ways that seem contradictory, it is often her love speaking in its quietest form. It is her way of asking for reassurance without exposing herself too openly, her way of seeking stability without having to demand it, her way of confirming that what she feels so deeply is reciprocated with equal depth. True love is often imagined as grand, loud, and dramatic. We picture it as bold declarations, constant affirmations, and endless expressions of passion. Movies, stories, and society condition us to believe that love must always be loud to be real, that it must scream to be noticed. But the reality is very different. True love does not always shout. It whispers. It speaks softly, quietly, in ways that are not always obvious to the world, but deeply felt in the heart. Its strength does not lie in constant noise, but in subtle gestures, unspoken understanding, and silent loyalty. While infatuation may crave attention and demand to be seen, true love is steady enough to rest in whispers because it knows its power does not depend on volume. The whispers of love are found in the small details, the things often overlooked, yet carrying the deepest meaning. It is in the way someone notices your silence without you saying a word. It is in the glance that says, I see you, when no one else does. It is in the simple acts of care that never ask for recognition, the cup of tea made when you are tired, the gentle touch when you are overwhelmed, the space given when you need time to breathe. These are not loud declarations, yet they speak volumes. They whisper a truth that is deeper than words, a truth that says, I love you enough to pay attention to the things you don't even voice. This is the language of whispers, where love does not need to announce itself loudly because it is already present in every small act of presence. When love whispers, it does so through silence that feels comforting rather than empty. Two people can sit in the same room without speaking and yet feel more connected than ever before. They do not need to fill every moment with words because their bond speaks in the quiet. That silence itself becomes a whisper of love, saying, I am here, and that is enough. This is the beauty of true love. It does not demand performance. It does not need constant proof. It does not always ask for dramatic expression. Instead, it finds strength in stillness, security in quietness, and intimacy in the unspoken moments that only hearts can hear. The whispers of love also appear in patience. True love whispers when it chooses not to argue over small things, when it holds back harsh words in moments of anger, when it forgives without needing to announce it. Loud love may be quick to react, quick to demand, quick to shout, but true love whispers by staying calm, by choosing peace over pride, by allowing space for healing instead of creating wounds with words. These whispers are powerful because they are rooted in self-control and understanding. They show that love values the bond more than the ego, that it does not need to win arguments to prove itself because its real strength is in choosing connection over conflict. True love whispers also through consistency. Loud gestures may come and go, but whispers are steady. They are in the good morning text sent without fail, the check-in call not because it is required, but because it is natural, the way one remains present through highs and lows without needing to announce every act of loyalty. These whispers may never be celebrated publicly,